Donald Trump's overreach is backfiring. Let me explain. I'm an independent journalist that's been covering Donald Trump for over a decade now. I've made appearances on MSNBC, CNN, I write a newsletter on Substack, and I document it every single day of Trump's first term. And right now, he's doing what he always does, dramatically overreaching and backfiring on himself politically. What we have to understand is that Trump is trying to seize power that he does not yet have. From his crackdowns on free speech to his threatened deployments to cities he has no jurisdiction in, he is trying to flex because he's trying to seek power under the guise of these false emergencies he's been declaring, right? So what we saw is after the Charlie Kirk murder, an effort to exploit the murder for his political gain, right? He talked about targeting liberal groups. He's talked about targeting his political enemies. He's trying to now charge James Comey. He's going after people in a really, really, aggressive way. But what we saw after the Jimmy Kimmel push, when the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, explicitly threatened the licenses of ABC affiliates, they did try to pressure Disney, right? They followed his whim. But Disney has said no. And they brought Jimmy Kimmel back on air. That is very important, and I'll tell you why. Every single time someone defies Trump, whether it's a corporation, an individual, a cultural institution, his power lessens. And it showed right there with the Jimmy Kimmel move. He's already trying to back off the FCC threats, right? His power is what we give him in these early stages of him trying to consolidate power, right? He has not yet been given unilateral authority by the Supreme Court yet, although he has notched way too many wins there. But a lot of this is up to us, corporations, individuals, journalists, to push back and say no when he tries to flex his power. And that's what happened with Disney. We saw also in the Eastern District of Virginia, the prosecutor's office, where Eric Siebert, they tried to pressure him to charge Comey and his other political enemies or perceived political enemies, and Eric Siebert said no, right? And he resigned because the prosecutor's office determined there's not enough evidence. Of course, he's installed Lindsay Halligan, who's now trying to move forward with those charges, but nonetheless, that resignation did damage to the perception of this prosecution, right? And although these things may seem small, they're important. As we talked about in my last video, Donald Trump is underwater politically right now. His approval ratings have been tanking. He's underwater in immigration, the economy, inflation. He's lost ground with key demographics from the Latino community to the Black community to young people. He is eroding and he is afraid of losing the midterms. And that's what's driving a lot of these authoritarian decisions, right? And that's why these moves are so important, because these little acts of defiance, big and small, limit his power in the short term. It buys more time so that we can get to that point in the midterms in which he will become a politically crippled, lame duck president on his way out of his second term. To paraphrase Nemec from Andor, which you can go watch on Disney Plus now that Jimmy's back, you can go reactivate your Disney Plus account, is basically even the most random, small acts of resistance push the line forward. And that's what we're seeing here. Disney saying no prevented a potential contagion of other corporations that might fold or even preemptively comply with any subtle reference to their programming or any host that Trump doesn't like to be removed. This is a line that was drawn. We saw this also with Harvard trying to push back on what Trump was trying to do and influencing how they handled their school. And again, these are all important because right now we're in the stage where it's about resisting and not complying. If you comply, you give Trump the power that he does not yet have. Again, he does not yet have unilateral power. A lot of it is pressure, trying to make free speech expensive, trying to pressure corporations. So the more these acts of defiance happen, the weaker Trump is. And we saw a lot of that in this last week. There's still a lot to be worried about, still a lot happening, but I wanted to highlight these small points of resistance and defiance as indicators of how the country's responding. And also recent polls continue to show Trump at second term lows. All right? So keep up the hope, keep moving forward. You can check out my newsletter. I'm a journalist. I'm gonna keep pushing on my end. And we all gotta do our part. All right.